The parsha in Kedoshim that deals with the mitzvah of Avas Reim discusses the following. There are two psukim. The first pasuk says, Lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha. You cannot hate your fellow man in your heart. Hocheach tochiach es hamisecha. How do you not hate him in your heart? You have to tell him that I hate you. We can't just erase the hatred, but at least tell him I hate you because this reason, this you did this, you did this, you did this. Okay? That's called tochacha. Of course, I would advise you not to say it like that if you want to continue to have a relationship with this person. But basically, the mitzvah of lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha means don't keep it in. Don't keep it in. As the Rambam explains in Hilchos Deos, don't let it fester, don't let it... You have to say something. The Rambam suggests saying something like, why did you hurt me? Why did you do this? You hurt me. It's a very, very smart way of giving tochacha to someone because you're not attacking them. If you say to them, you're a Russia, you did this horrible thing, why did you do this to me? So that's basically an attack. When someone's attacked, his first response is to defend himself. He's not readily going to admit it. But if you make yourself the victim, and he had the power over you in order to make you feel bad, so it makes it much easier for him to apologize, because he doesn't really want it. That's not what he really wants to do. When you say that you hurt my feelings. Maybe you made it, we were all together, a whole bunch of friends, and you made a joke about me, and everyone laughed, and you thought it was funny, but it really hurt me. It really hurt my feelings. It makes it much easier for a person to say, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to do that. That's called tochacha. The Rambam says that tochacha, the prerequisite of tochacha is that you have to care about the person that you're giving tochacha to. The pasuk continues, "V'lo siso lov chet," that you should do it in a way that you don't get a chet. Now, there are any perushim on what the chet is that you'll do. Maybe it's malvi penei chavero. It could be. But maybe the chet is what comes in the following pasuk. Lo sikom v'lo sitor es b'nei amecha. Maybe the sin is, what you cause? You cause a person to take revenge, bear a grudge. Those are also loving. Each one is a love. So you have to do it in a way that you don't have a grudge against someone else, that you're not doing it to take revenge because someone hurt you. And the pasuk ends, the second pasuk ends, pasuk Yudches, V'yohavta l'reacha kamocha, Ani Hashem. Because the reason that you should do it is because you love your fellow man. And if you love your fellow man, so you won't hate him. You'll be able to give him tochacha. You won't bear a grudge, and you won't take revenge. Because there's a mitzvah of loving your fellow man. How are you supposed to give tochacha, says the Rambam? You're supposed to do it in a way that you're not taking revenge. You're not doing it because you want to get it off your chest. You're doing it because you've calmed down a little bit and you are thinking that this person did an avera, and if I can get him to do tshuva for it, so I'm going to help him have a place in the next world. It's not such an easy thing. It's true, it's a madrega, but if a person really cares about someone else, that's where we're going. Okay. Now, how do we know that the tochacha that you give, the Torah says you have to go is talking about you're expressing your anger at the person, and you're allowed to tell him you did something wrong. You didn't do it to me. I saw you riding on Shabbos, eating treif. How could you do it, So that's not really the tochacha that we're talking about. We're speaking about a different kind of tochacha. Because the wrongdoer hopefully will get a place in Olam Haba. And if you look at the next pasuk, we see from the pasuk that it says, "V'ahavta l'reacho kamocha ani Hashem," because Hashem, that's what Hashem wants you to do. Hashem wants you to love your fellow man. Now, explaining this mitzvah of avas reim, the Rambam says that every Jew is chayiv to love every other Jew. Okay? Every Jew is chayiv to love every, called echad v'echad b'Yisrael. You have to love every Jew. The Vilna Gaon, the Gemara says that this is the hardest mitzvah in the entire Torah to keep. Of all the Torah mitzvahs, this is the most difficult mitzvah in order to do. There are some people who excel in perfecting the art of making themselves obnoxious. They are really good at it. And those people, love them? Not easy. How does one possibly love someone like that? Now, perhaps in order for us to answer that question, we have to be able to define what we mean by love. What do we mean by love? How do we define what love is? So, the truth is, in English, the word avo is we have like two expressions for it. You can like somebody, or you can love them. Loving is a much stronger emotion than liking someone. Oh, okay, I like them. But you say you love them, that's like, there's much more emotion involved. But in Lashon Kodesh, the Torah uses the word ava. It doesn't distinguish whether it's referring to liking someone or loving them. Now, the Rambam continues. After he gives the definition, after he says that you're chayiv, the mitzvah is you're chayiv, every Jew is chayiv to love every other Jew, he goes on and he says, Lefichach, therefore, tzarech l'saper b'shivcho v'lachos al mamono. Therefore, you have to speak in his praise, and you have to be concerned about his financial situation. You have to be concerned about his money. Okay? Just as you would do your own. That's the kamocha part, like your own. The Lefichach tells us that what came before, what the Rambam said before, is the real mitzvah, and therefore, once you achieve that state where you emotionally love somebody, therefore, when you feel that way, you're going to speak in their praise, and you are going to be concerned about their financial status. It does not mean that you're mekayim a mitzvah of hafta l'reicho kamocha when you speak about someone well, when you praise them, or when you're concerned about their money. That's a different mitzvah. That probably is a mitzvah of yashrus, of being straight, being honest, emes. It's a good midah. It's not ava. You could dislike someone, and yet you could praise them. You can dislike someone and say, wow, he's a great cook. He's a great basketball player. He's very smart. I don't like him, but he's very smart. So you can praise someone without saying, I don't like him. You can just say, he's a very smart guy. You praised him. Do you like him? No. Do you love him? No. Are you the guy in the mitzvah of avas reim by doing that? No. So therefore, the trick becomes, how do you love? How do you do it? And in case anyone's in doubt that the mitzvah of Ava, the Rambam is talking about, is an emotional one, and thinks it's perhaps not an emotional mitzvah, but it's something you do, I want to try to read something from Hilchos Tshuva. The last parak of Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam speaks about the mitzvah of Avas Hashem. Okay? And this is how he describes Avas Hashem in Halacha Gimel. Keitzad hi ha'ava hara'uya, hu she'av es Hashem, hava gedola yisera, aza ma'od, ad shetehei nafsha kishura ba'avas Hashem. Person, how do you accomplish the love? What do we mean by the loving of Hashem? The proper love of Hashem is that you should love Him with a tremendous love, a great love, very strong. Ad shetehei nafsha kishura be'avas Hashem, until his nefesh is connected to Avas Hashem, is bound up to Avas Hashem. V'nimtza shogeh ba'atomi, and he's always thinking about it. Ki'ilu, like someone who's choli avo, someone who's lovesick. She'ein daito penuya me'avas osa isha. They can't stop thinking about that woman. B'hu shogeh ba'atomi, he's thinking about her always. Bein b'shifto, whether he's sitting, bein b'kumo, bein b'shar shu ochel b'shoseh. Yeser mizeh tiya avas Hashem b'leiv ohavov. The Rambam is describing an emotion. You have to feel love. Yeah. To feel love is something that a feeling is not something you can legislate. You can't command someone to feel. Okay. Yet there's a mitzvah. V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, v'yahavta es Hashem elokecha, the mitzvah of yiras Hashem. These are all emotional things. You have the feelings. And yet the Torah commands us to do them. So we should know that every mitzvah in the Torah mitzvahs is a klal. It's a general rule. This is the mitzvah. In order to be mekayim the mitzvah, you have to know the pratim. Every mitzvah has pratim, has details. You can't be mekayim any mitzvah unless you know the details. Yeah, for example, we have a mitzvah of esrog on Sukkos, taking an esrog b'yom rishon, Priyetz Hodor. In order to know, to mekayim that mitzvah, you have to know what's a kosher esrog. You have to know what an esrog is. You have to know the size of the esrog, you have to know the shape, you have to know what any blemishes on it that passel it. Those are called the pratim, those are called the details. The mitzvah of Avas Hashem also has details. And if you don't know what those details are, you can't be mekayim the mitzvah. Just like you can't be the mekayim any mitzvah. Because it's not enough to legislate and say, you have to love me. It doesn't work. I was once in England, I may have told this story over once. I was in England and I was asked to speak in a shul in England early in the morning. And there wasn't a big audience, there were about 50 people there. And I was asked to speak right after davening. And I was looking at the audience, and in front of me there is a thing that looks like a telephone, or it wasn't exactly a microphone, it looked like a telephone, I didn't know what it was, but I assumed it was a microphone. But the shul wasn't big enough that I needed a microphone, it was much smaller than this base medrash. So I started giving my drasha, and it was about emunah. That we're chayav to believe in Hashem. How do you command someone to believe? It's a chiyuv. It's an obligation. It happens to be, the Rambam lists it as the first mitzvah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. There's a mitzvah saseh, lamin v'leida she'yeshem Eloka. How do you command somebody to believe? You believe or you don't believe? It doesn't work that way. So I told them this following. You have to realize I'm in this shul in England, in London, Golders Green, and I get up and I tell them, I want to explain to you what I mean, that you can't legislate emotion. I said, I know you won't believe this, but I'm a frog. I know I look like a person, but I'm really a frog. So I see, Englishmen don't smile at things like that. You understand? They look at each other like, like back and forth. What's going on? This guy's nuts. Who invited him? So I said, what, you don't believe I'm a frog? I said, you see what I'm wearing under here? This explosive belt that I borrowed from Hamas? I said, there's anybody here that doesn't believe that I am a frog? Please raise your hand. I'm going to blow us all up if there's one person who doesn't believe I'm a frog. I know you won't believe this, but nobody raised their hand. Nobody raised their hand. I only found out later that this thing was at the telephone, and I was being broadcast to 7,000 people. So recently I went to England 2 weeks ago. I was sure they weren't going to let me in. But okay, so they're looking at me like this. I said, so you believe I'm a frog, right? Either say yes or no. So everybody goes, So they say, okay, look, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not really a frog. I'm not really a frog. I'm a merely person. But you see, you can get someone to say, I believe and I accept, right? But they don't really believe or accept. Okay? It has to be real. You have to get in touch with it. Okay? Certainly the same thing is true about the emotion of Ava. Okay? Now, try as you might, you can't control your emotions to that point that you can turn them on and turn them off unless there's a good basis for it. You have to have a basis for it. So, I want to give a basis for that. I want to try to explain what I believe are pratim, the details of the mitzvah of Avas Hashem, that if a person fulfills the details, he'll be mekayim the mitzvah, and he will feel emotionally, he will like people. Okay? I have a list here. That I made 40 years ago of positive traits. I just went to a dictionary and I started writing down positive traits. I used to bring, when I first started working with Chosrei B'Tshuva, so I would have people come to my house. It was, often, for Shabbos, and guys from the yeshiva, and I loved everybody. Everybody was great, and my wife would say, hey, he was a nice boy. See the way he, he dealt with the children. I didn't like him. He put the food on the plate. He took like half the plate for himself. And she was critical, and I would cringe whenever she would say something bad about one of my talmidim. It's like, how would you say that? It's like, it's our children. And then I realized that she understands people better than I do, So I didn't have it naturally. So I said, I'm going to learn how to do it. So I went to a dictionary, and I started looking for all these traits. So I made 2 lists. One positive traits, like 100 positive traits. Another list with 100 negative traits. And I studied it. And when someone would come into the yeshiva, and I would interview them to see whether we would accept them in the yeshiva, so I would ask them more questions. And then as soon as he walked out of the room, I took out my sheet, and I would check off things. He was this. Oh yeah, he was assertive. He was bright. He was caring. He seemed cheerful. He was intellectual, self-control, sharp mind. Okay, accept him, yeshiva. Well, I've been doing that for like 40 years, and I have it calibrated now. And when I meet somebody, I automatically see this list, and as I'm talking to them, I'm saying, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's this. So I like people. I just can't help myself. It works. Okay? I used to, when I was more involved in the day-to-day Orlagola, I used to interview couples. Why couples? I would explain to the wife, the reason that you're here, your husband's coming to a kollel, but the reason that you're here is that this kollel is a special kollel because you're going to be sent out as a family to some place. You're going to be the rabbi, he's going to be the rabbi in some place, and you're going to be the rebbitzin, or whatever it is. You're going to be going as a couple, And so I want to make sure that you know what you're getting into. I turn to the husband and say, tell me 5 good things about yourself. So he would look. I said, okay, Anov is one of them. Okay, just tell me 4 more. You know? So, I like people. Okay, that's very nice. Tell me more about your character. I'm friendly. Okay, that's good. Then he's stuck. And then his wife says, oh, I can tell you. He's very intelligent. He's generous. He's this. And she starts mentioning a whole bunch of things. Then I turn to her and I say, okay, tell me 5 good things about yourself. And she's, okay, well, another. You know, both are another. You know, she couldn't do it. But the husband says, well, she's kind and she's generous and she's caring and she's smart. And I said, this is a couple I would be happy sending anywhere. I said, you know, they have a great marriage. They like each other, you know. This is like good. Bachrim in the yeshiva, very often I will ask them that question also. You know, I'm sure that there are people in this room who I've asked that question to. Tell me 5 good things about yourself. Believe it or not, most people, when I say most, I mean like 90%, can't say 5 good things about themselves. We live in a world that's very critical. And in yeshivas, we're always working on our midos, we want to get better, so we're also self-critical. It's very important for a person to be able to do this, to love himself before he begins loving others, so he knows what to look for. So he should know 5 good things. So I sit down with this list, and I say, check off all the things that apply to you, that you think apply to you. Okay? And then he checks off about 20 or 30 things that he couldn't think of, he wasn't aware of. And I would take the list and I would say, you know what? I think there's somebody in the yeshiva who would make a great chavrusa for you, or at least a good friend. And I start reading he has Avas Hashem, he's assertive, he's artistic, he's bright, he's calm, he's considerate, he's deep, he's modest. And I read off all the things that he checked off about himself. He's generous, he's resourceful, he's trustworthy, he wants to do good. And I say to him, would you like to have a friend like this? Usually the guys are smart enough to realize what I was doing. You know, so if they say yes, I say, let me introduce you to yourself. Okay? Now I'll give you an exercise. Take this piece of paper. For the next 2 weeks, do what I just did. Instead of saying he is, say I am. Get used to saying, so next time someone asks you, tell me 5 good things about yourself, you'll gain an awareness of this. You'll feel it gives a person self-esteem, and it's a great tool to help build up someone. I translated it to Hebrew for my children to use on their children, and they say it works. You know, just get them aware. It gives, when a person knows his strengths, he doesn't become a Baal Gaiva. If he does, if he checks off everything, so then I give him the second list that I made, which I never use, which is negative things. I really keep that just for myself. But you want to take somebody down a couple of pegs, you know, let him read that. He'll see, you know, check off a lot of those too. But the truth is that today, we just need this list. Just the good things to know about yourself, to get in touch with, to be aware of your strengths. Now, in order to really do kiruv properly, okay? And by the way, I also have very often used this as a tool, not a tool, as advice that I give a chassan and kala, sometimes under the chuppah. Tell them, I'm giving you these 2 pieces of paper. Know this about each other. You have to know, if each one of you knows 10 good things about the other, then I guarantee you'll have a great marriage, because that's what you'll focus on. You'll be aware of the other person's strengths, and then even when things get a little bit, rough, and you have disagreements about things, but all the time you're conscious of your spouse's positive traits, so you'll be able to weather almost anything. when you meet somebody, and you're all kinds of kiruv. You could be a professional mekarev, as Rabbi Breitowitz was mentioning. Maybe people go out to campus, maybe you're a rav, but maybe you're just a frum person that invites people for Shabbos. You can have a tremendous hashpah on them if you like them. They have to feel like you like them. Dvar meyotzim in alev, nechnazim alev, and it has to be real. In order for it to be real, and in order to be mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, you have to be able to see these positive things in other people. And when you do that, you will see that you will really like them. And when you really like them, they will feel that you really like them, and they will be much more open to accept your intellectual arguments to show the truth of Torah than listening to someone who you're a little bit afraid of. You don't know if he really likes you. Is he doing this in order to make another notch in his belt? That's how become the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And perhaps this is what Rabbi Kiva meant when he said V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is a klal gadol b'Torah. Because when you love someone, you start loving kamocha, you love yourself also, then you're more open to accept the Torah. You're certainly stronger to accept any kind of tochacha that you may give yourself, because you still like yourself. Some people get depressed when they hear things that they do wrong. It's because they don't like themselves. So one of the most powerful tools in kiruv, whether it's kiruv yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or whether it's kiruv another Jew who's far away, who doesn't know anything about Yiddishkeit, to get him close to Torah, or whether it's kiruv krovim, then you have to let him know that you care about him, and you can only do that when you really care about him. And it's Hashem will be mekayim this mitzvah, and it's not a hard mitzvah to be mekayim somewhat. Perhaps not to the degree that the Gra was speaking about, but you could find that you will like a lot of people that you don't necessarily like now. You just have to look for their positive traits. Anyone who would like a copy of the list, you could really make your own the same way I did. But if you like a copy of a ready-made list, so please ask us. Maybe we should make some copies and leave it for them.